So thanks everyone for joining us today. Like I mentioned before, we're going to talk about understanding health claims on foods and supplements. I thought this was important because, especially, I've been hearing from a lot of people like we're hitting this around 6 month mark of being, on lockdown or away from friends or family or feeling isolated, and people may turn to foods or supplements that promise, mood enhancing effects and other things. So, sort of to determine what you're eating, is it fact or fiction? Oops. So, today we'll talk about understanding the food label, health claims, how they're regulated, health claims on foods and supplements, and how to determine if they're fact or fiction. So, all claims are regulated by, or they go through the Food and Drug Administration. And so this is an agency of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And they're responsible for protecting and promoting public health through the regulation and supervision of food safety, tobacco, dietary supplements, prescription and over-the-counter medications, vaccines, and veterinary products. So they regulate food and have a lot of oversight on claims and labels placed on food products, but not so much on dietary supplements. So we'll talk about that later. So in 1990, they had the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act. And basically this gives the FDA the authority to require nutrition labeling on most food packages and specify that the nutrients be listed on the nutrition label. It requires that the nutrients be presented in the context of the daily diet. So that's where you would see like serving size or percent daily value. It required standard definitions to be developed. So it characterized the level of nutrients and required that FDA provide approval for health claims. It permitted the FDA to add or delete nutrients based on the determination that a change would assist consumers in maintaining healthy dietary practices. And this Nutrition Labeling and Education Act only pertains to food labels or food products regulated by the FDA. This does not include meat and poultry product labels because they're under the authority of the USDA. Alcoholic beverages are under the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau. So those aren't regulated by FDA. So the main goals of the nutrition label, according to the FDA, were to clear up confusion that surrounded nutrition labeling for years, help consumers choose healthier diets, and give food companies an incentive to improve the nutritional qualities of their products. So I won't go through the whole nutrition facts label. I think we did a talk about that and made some fast facts during DFEND 1.0. But they did require this ingredient list. So you can see with this blue arrow on this bottle of Gatorade. So it said foods with more than one ingredient must have an ingredient list on the label, and that these ingredients have to be listed in descending order by weight. So the item that's the largest amount is listed first. So for instance, this Gatorade, water is first and sugar is second. So these represent the weight present in the product. And they have really specific guidelines about this ingredient list. So like I just said, they have to be in descending order, sorted by weight. And they need to list the common or usual name for the ingredient, unless there's a regulation that provides for a different term. So for instance, you would have to use the word sugar. So you can see that they have done that on this Gatorade versus the scientific name, which is sucrose. And then trace ingredients don't need to be listed if it's an incidental additive and has no functional or technical effect on the product. So, and chemical preservatives that are added to a food must be included using the common name. And so, for instance, and an explanation. So it would be like preservative to delay spoilage, inhibit mold, protect flavor, things like that. And spices may be declared on an ingredient list by using specific names or common names, or just saying spices, flavor, or natural flavor. So it gives really specific rules on how things have to be on the food label. And so, for instance, this is probably old because I took this from a slide I made in 2016, but this is multi-grain Cheerios. You can actually see here, we'll talk about what kind of claim this is. later on. But it talks about multigrain and having 5, I think, different kinds of whole grain. And you can see that whole grain here is listed first as the first ingredient. So you can see but sugar is third. But then if you look at Reese's Puffs, so I think it was around 2015 or 2016, General Mills did get in trouble for a lot of their cereals because they had this claim here that said whole grain, but it wasn't the first ingredient. Sometimes it was the second, third, or fourth ingredient. So then they relaunched saying now with like whole grain as the first ingredient. And you can see here more whole grain than any other ingredient. So that was because people, I think, petitioned and filed reports with the FDA, and they got their hands slapped and had to fix this. So when we talk about health claims, what are they? So the health claims can also be called label claims because they're on the package. So there's a general health claim, a nutrient content claim, and a structure function claim. And this little info here, it's about a 4-minute video. It's from the European Food Standards Agency, which has stricter policies than the US on claims that can be made on the front of food packages. But I put it here because it's a nice video and it provides a good explanation if you want to watch it offline. So these are more types of claims where you see oatmeal helps reduce cholesterol, or daily value 35% of fiber. So these would be more like, this would be a nutrient content claim, where this would be a health claim. So health claims are authorized by the FDA, and they must be supported by credible scientific evidence regarding the relationship between a substance or a specific food or food component in that food product and a disease or health-related condition. And they are 2 types of these. They can be authorized or qualified, and this means that they just have different regulatory guidelines. So a health claim is any claim that states, suggests, or implies that a relationship exists between a food category or food and one of its parts or components and health. So one example is like you always see on oatmeal, the heart health, or nuts, things about heart health. It's not that product specifically that has been tested to be beneficial for heart health. It's just saying there's enough science out there regarding whole grains or oats that link to improved heart health, so they can put this claim on their package. So an authorized health claim describes a claim that's been reviewed by the FDA and approved for use. This means that you can make this authorized health claim on your, that should say product, without needing the FDA to approve it. But in order to get FDA approval, there must be significant scientific agreement. So this means the science supporting this health claim is unlikely to change, and there's enough science out there that supports the benefit of that food or food component on the health outcome. So these are examples of food and health, of authorized health claims that make this scientific standard. So anytime you see calcium, vitamin D, and osteoporosis, dietary fat and risk of cancer, saturated fat and cholesterol and risk of coronary heart disease. So non-cariogenic, so this means non-cavity causing carbohydrate sweeteners and dental caries. You'll often see claims about this on like sugar-free gum. Folic acid and neural tube defects, fiber containing grains, fruits, vegetables, and cancer risk, fruits and vegetables and cancer risk, fibers and coronary heart disease, sodium and hypertension, soluble fibers and heart disease, soy protein and heart disease, and then stanols or sterols. So these are those plant sterols that you see a lot of in margarines, and risk of coronary heart disease. So this is an example from Cheerios of an authorized health claim that says 3 grams of soluble fiber daily from whole grain oat foods like Cheerios. So it's not saying Cheerios does this, but this kind of food in a diet low in saturated fat may reduce the risk of heart disease. But if you look here, Cheerios only provides 1 gram of soluble fiber per serving, and this claim says you need 3 grams. So this is where it's important to understand how to read your nutrition label and your nutrition facts panel to see if it's meeting the requirements. And then usually this wording has been laid out by the FDA, so their companies aren't allowed to manipulate it that much, except for maybe the brand. or the food product. And then this link at the bottom provides more detail on all these different claims. So then you have a qualified health claim, and this is a statement approved for the FDA for use on food labels, but also has strict wording requirements. And these come up when there's emerging evidence between a food and the reduced risk of a disease, but not enough for the FDA to issue an authorized health claim. So I think, unless you've done research into this, I think the average consumer is not going to know that there's a difference in scientific level between different types of health claims on foods. So one example of a qualified health claim is that some scientific evidence suggests that consumption of antioxidant vitamins may reduce the risks of certain forms of cancer. However, the FDA has determined that this evidence is limited and not conclusive. So this would mean that if you were going to make a claim about antioxidant vitamins on your food product, you would have to put this wording verbatim on your package. So some examples include atopic dermatitis. So this is like for certain infant formulas that claim to have like hydrolyzed whey protein to help with skin irritation. Things like cancer, so green tea or tomatoes, the effect of nuts or omega-3 fatty acids in cardiovascular disease, cognitive function, diabetes, hypertension, things about peanut allergies. I guess there's things about powdered peanuts may help with peanut allergy, and then things like urinary tract infections in cranberry juice or cranberry juice derived products. And keep in mind, these are not for supplements. These are just for whole food products. And then this gives examples of some of these qualified health claims. So this would say, like olive oil may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease due to the monounsaturated fatty acid or fat in olive oil. But then you can see here that this is a wording directly issued by the FDA. So to have a health claim, it cannot be made about diagnosis, cure, mitigation, or treatment of a disease. This becomes a drug claim. They must be complete, truthful, and not misleading to the consumer. And certain foods may be disqualified from using health claims based on nutrient levels that are deemed unhealthy. And they must be associated with a risk or health-related condition for which the U.S. population or subgroup is at risk. And the substance that is the subject of the health claim must have a taste, aroma, or nutrient value when consumed at the levels used to just justify the claim. So you can't have, maybe 0.25 grams of whole grains and then make the claim. You have to have something that's realistic. So some other examples include about calcium and osteoporosis. So the claim would be a diet adequate in calcium may help reduce the risk for osteoporosis, a degenerative bone disease. And then to make this claim on your product, you would be required to have at least 200 milligrams of calcium, no more phosphorus than calcium per serving because that can inhibit absorption of calcium. And it must be the calcium used must be in a form that can be readily absorbed by the body. So this would be something, like that's found in milk or dairy products. And here are some more examples. So this is about plant sterols. So I actually don't know if these products are even in the market anymore because these slides are a few years old. But like Smart Balance, where they have these heart-right claims. I think another one used to be like Promise Spread. And they can make the claim about helping block cholesterol if they contain these amounts of either plant sterols or plant stanols. They also have to have low saturated fat and low cholesterol, and we'll see there's a definition for what low means. And these are some of the required terms. So I just kind of cut this page, but you can see they're very strict on how you can use this claim on your package. So the next type of claim are nutrient content claims. So we talked about health claims, and these have to have scientific substantiation, but a nutrient content claim, this just talks about the level of a nutrient in a product, and you'll see things like free, high, low, or more, reduced, light. So it can be about the product itself, or they can compare the level of a nutrient in one food to that of another food in a similar category. So these are examples like reduced fat, very low sodium, like you'll see light in a lot of places, and then like a lot of chips would say like 40% less fat than regular potato chips. So they're comparing to another product in the same category. So most nutrient content claims regulations only apply to nutrients or dietary supplements that have an established daily value, and you would see that on your food label. And then the manufacturer, it's up to them to make sure that the exact wording of the claim is consistent with the FDA regulation. So these are examples of what the definitions mean. This is from the American Heart Association's website. So if someone wants to make like a calorie-free claim, so like on Coke Zero or Diet Coke or Crystal Light or something like that, it has to have less than 5 calories per serving. If it's sugar-free, it has to have less than 0.5 grams of sugar per serving. For things like fat, for fat-free, it has to have less than 0.5 gram of fat. Low fat, 3 grams of fat or less per serving, etc. And so there's even regulations about lean, extra lean, and light. So then the next set of claims are structure function claims. And these talk about the effect of a nutrient or ingredient on normal structures or functions in the body. So they're not the same as health claims. They can't state a relationship between preventing, curing, or mitigating a disease or health-related condition, and they're not subject to FDA authorization or for pre-market review by the FDA. But again, it's up to the manufacturer to be responsible in the information they're communicating to the consumer. So one example of a structure function claim is that DHA omega-3 supports brain health. So they're not saying anything about the product. They're not saying it's going to do anything, that there is evidence just that DHA has shown to support brain health. But there are examples when health claims go wrong. So this was from, I guess, around 13 years ago, but there was an ad, and I remember because I know the guy who did this research, but like the National Dairy Council talked about weight loss and dairy consumption, but then it got recalled because what they found is that the study where they were basing this claim on was conducted primarily in African-American women who were calcium deficient, and it didn't represent the general healthy population. The women were coming into the study already calcium deficient, so they had to retract this claim. And then like Kellogg's also got a big fine because they had these immunity claims on Cocoa Krispies that weren't substantiated. And then Dannon, also this happened when I was working at Dannon, they had to, they lost their health claim on Activia yogurt. And one of the reasons this happened is because most of the studies showing the health effects of Activia yogurt were done in French firefighters. They weren't done in the general population. So the claims couldn't be translated to the general public. So then let's move on quickly to dietary supplements. So I think it's important they fall under a different set of regulations than foods. And I think that's a reason why you'll find your dietary supplements in a different section of the store than your foods. So according to the 1994 Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, supplement manufacturers do not need to receive FDA approval before marketing their dietary supplements. So I watched a documentary a few years ago when I was teaching a class, and it really had, this rule came about due to some really good lobbying as to why supplements don't have to be, have the extensive FDA approval that foods do. And this act also doesn't set a limit on the amount of vitamins or minerals which can be put into a pill. So sometimes people have taken too much and have gotten sick. But the label must have a statement that identifies that the product's a dietary supplement. And instead of a nutrition facts panel, it has to be a supplement facts panel. It can't be called nutrition. It has to talk about the part of the plant used, if it's an herb or a botanical, complete list of ingredients by their common names, and it has to have a disclaimer that says this statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. So one example is creatine, because I teach a lot of undergraduate nutrition classes, and they're filled with a lot of people that like to build more muscle. Creatine is a popular supplement I always get asked about. So you can see here on the side of this creatine supplement, it says these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA and they're not intended to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. But they do have this all over the website that creatine promotes the available muscle energy in the body and all of these other things. But then, they're not evaluated and they haven't necessarily even been evaluated by scientists. So things to keep in mind, always consult your healthcare provider before taking dietary supplements, especially if you're taking them to try to treat a health condition. Get your healthcare provider's approval before taking supplements in place of or in combination with your prescription medicine. And this is because a lot of supplements can negatively interact with a lot of prescription medicines. If you're scheduled to have any type of surgical procedure, talk with your healthcare provider about supplements you take. And keep in mind, I think people think the term natural means safe, but that's not always the case. Some all-natural botanical products can harm your liver. And it can depend on the chemical makeup, where is it derived from, how does it work in your body, how is the supplement prepared, and the amount you take. And then before taking a supplement, talk with your healthcare provider or an expert to answer these questions. What are its potential benefits? Does it have safety risks? What is the proper dose to take? How, when, and how long should I take it? Some examples of common supplements include vitamins and minerals. I think around 40% of Americans take a vitamin supplement. Amino acids, enzymes, herbs, different kind of extracts, probiotics and prebiotics. And they can be capsules, liquids, powders. And while they seem like they might be similar to drugs, because they look like drugs, they're in a capsule and have drug-like effects, the biggest difference is they don't undergo FDA review for safety or effectiveness before they're sold. So there's no monitoring of the supplement. So I know a few years ago, there were a lot of issues because of some of the supplements pulled from the market and tested, there are a lot of toxins present. And other things to keep in mind, like they're not always safe. Supplements claiming to be cures aren't probably proven. And these are some clues to know if you're being duped about the claims on these products. So if it claims that it does it all, it's probably fraudulent. If it can treat or cure diseases, or if they use words like scientific breakthrough, miraculous cure, exclusive product, secret ingredient, ancient remedy, those are signs that it's a fraudulent supplement. If they use misleading scientific sounding terms, phony references to Nobel Prize winning technology or science, undocumented testimonials, and then you can't find any references to scientific, like peer-reviewed publications on their website. They always claim that there's a limited supply and you need to pay in advance, and promises of no risk, money back guarantees. These are all usually clues that you're going to be buying a fraudulent product. So there is a dietary supplement verification program called USP. It has a label that looks like this on the front of it. And what this company does is it's a voluntary program that lets manufacturers of dietary supplements be tested to make sure what they're claiming is in the supplement is actually there. And it recognizes things for like quality, purity, and potency, but it does not, it's all about manufacturing processes and the purity of the ingredient. It does not test for the health benefit. So people in the US, more than 1/3 of Americans take supplements. I mean, I'll admit that I do take glucosamine and calcium supplements. 40 vitamins or mineral supplements make up 40% of all vitamin sales. Most common supplements contain fish oil, omega-3s, DHA, or EPA. And 30% of adults age 65 or older take 4 or more supplements of any kind. So you can see most of Costco, their Kirkland brand, they do have this USP symbol. But you can see here on this package, they do claim that it supports bone, colon, muscle, immune, and breast health. But you can see they have this little cross here, and then that will take you to their FDA claim down here that says that they haven't been approved. And then here's another example of a supplement that I found online where basically it claims to do everything. So that's a big red flag. And then I found this one also just online. So I don't even know where they sell it, but it does have another one. GMP is another example of a company that checks for purity. And you can see here that they make a lot of claims that it's from the world's best source and it can do all these awesome things. And then you can see here that they have their claim in smaller font that they're not evaluated by the FDA. So just be careful. I think I ended up deleting a slide by accident. So just be careful when you're purchasing things. Make sure to read the label. And now I hope you have a little bit better understanding of what goes into those labels on the front of your food and supplement packages. And next week, we'll begin our 2-week series on the power of protein. Oops, yeah, they were out of order. So, but in general, if you talk to dietitians or health professionals, they'll say nothing beats the nutrient power of a healthy diet. You know, lots of fruits and vegetables and high in fiber. I think that's the last slide. Let me stop sharing here and come back. So thanks. And I think that was a lot of information, and we can make some more detailed fast facts to help you out. So I'm actually going to, I think I have to keep everyone minimized here, trying to figure out how to do that for camera, or else your faces are going to end up on our YouTube channel, we learned. But I can't really figure out, well, we can figure out how to edit it out. So thanks everyone for calling in. I'm not sure if Sarah Jones is on the call yet. I know she has class
Hi.
over. Sarah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Well, now since I scrolled through everyone's picture, they'll all have a feature on the website. So I'll try for next week to figure out what, now that we realize that your photos come out, because I don't want people's first and last names to be on our YouTube channel. So I don't know how to, do you know how to get the pictures off, Sarah? I could do it when I was presenting, but once I stop sharing my screen, I can't figure out.
No, and I don't see any questions in the chat. I didn't join until 11:40 because my class goes up until then. So if you asked a question in the chat prior to 11:40 a.m., I can't see it to read it.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, so Angela, it was my fault. I was late in getting my slides together. So Angela should put some fast facts up by Monday. The slides will also be put up with the links. But yeah, so I think it's really overwhelming. And honestly, I'm not an expert in supplements, but I was getting so many questions when I was teaching undergrads that I put together a short lecture for a different class that I teach. And I think, you know, people were really surprised that there's not any regulation on dietary supplement claims. So that's why it's really important, I think, at least to read those labels. And I mean, I did ask my doctor about glucosamine because now that I'm in my 40s, it really hurts when I stand up sometimes. And he did say that the science isn't there, but there's a lot of anecdotal evidence. But they at least put it in my chart so that if I end up on a medicine that, you know, conflicts with that supplement, then they know to tell me to stop. If we all sign off before I end it, our pictures will go away. Okay, awesome. Then I'll wait for everyone to sign off, and then the picture as well will end. If not, I can figure out how to edit it, or we can ask someone in IT. But yeah, so that was, I know it was a ton of information. And does anyone, did anyone ever subscribe to Beachbody? Is Beachbody still around? I know they recently had to pay like a $4 million lawsuit, but because it's a, multi-level marketing scheme. My best friend from growing up loves these things, so I always try to support her. But they were selling some sort of supplement in a bag that was like $130, and it claimed to cure everything. And it was and I was trying to find a picture of it because there's all these ingredients. If there has been something in the media about an ingredient that makes magic, they threw it in this like powder mix and really convince people to buy it. So, but yeah, and I know, you know, like, and it takes a lot to get a supplement pulled off the market. I don't know if any of you ever remember, GNC sold it. I think it was in grad school. Erin, maybe you know from exercise science, but it had like fen-phen in it or something, and people were getting heart attacks.
Yeah, it was a weight loss.
Yes. And I was taking that supplement in graduate school, and I remember being at the gym and thinking I was going to like going into cardiac arrest. And like a few weeks later, that's when they pulled it from the market because young people were having heart attacks from this, like, what was it called? Fat burn or something. It had a great
I don't know what the
name,
marketing name was.
but usually it takes like 6 to 10 people dying before they'll look into pulling supplement off the market. But anyway, well, thanks. It's 12:01. Thank you all for calling in. So I'll just wait, I guess, for everyone to sign off. See if that helps the video situation. I did learn, Sarah, that the chat does not go in the video. That's a separate file. So you don't have to worry about your name showing up if you wrote a question. So yeah, if everyone, thank you. And we'll hopefully see you next week for protein. All right, anyone else? Yep. I still like your necklace, Sarah. So cute.
Thank you.
So if everyone who's on can sign off, then we'll make sure we don't see if it doesn't save the videos when we finalize the recording. No.